Meditation Master Jin Bodhi's Dharma Teachings, The Power of Compassion. The Vancouver area experienced a seasonal miracle of sorts recently, the return of the salmon for spawning. Returning salmon face innumerable dangers. By the time they reach their streams of origin, they've normally suffered numerous injuries. Many others die on the journey. Perhaps eaten by other fish or animals. To see them teaming up the stream is powerfully moving. How can a fish be so driven? Ignoring its own bodily survival, free of any inhibition while returning to its birthplace. It's very impressive. These fish don't stay in little waterways or inlets either. They travel out into the Pacific Ocean, crossing over to Japan and China, completing a circuit. It can't be easy. And it shows the animal determination can be as strong as humanity's in its way. 20 years ago, I watched a Japanese movie about a real family of wolves. It was touching, and I even cried at one point. The wolves were highly aware. The people who lived in the area wanted to kill them and set traps. One of the little wolf cubs got sick. There was no food to be found in the thick snow. The hunters used chickens to lure the wolves to a spot surrounded by traps. The father wolf paced back and forth along the perimeter of the hunter's property. His body language was as clear as speech. The danger ahead is great, and there's no way through. Still, as though thinking of his cub's pain and hunger, he took a step, tears trickling down, then hesitated. Finally, he ventured ahead. It wasn't an act of self-destruction, but of necessity, needing food for his offspring. He made it through and got the bird. But on the way back, he lost his tracks and stepped into one of the traps. Rear leg caught. He struggled, a desperate creature seeing death. there was no escape. So the wolf tore free, leaving his rear leg behind. He died in the snow, halfway back to his den. It was a very emotional story. There's so much we don't know about animals, yet we share so much in common. So many of the same feelings. Just a year ago, I saw a documentary on how emotional communication affects plant growth. Even though it wasn't nearly as easy to relate to as the first story, it revealed some fascinating truths all the same. In a 6-stage experiment, different genres of music were played to one group of plants. Another group was given praise, while a third group was subjected to verbal abuse. The abused group didn't grow properly. It was sickly and yellow. The praised plants grew thick, and the music-listening plants did exceptionally well. This affirms that emotions are not exclusively human. They appear to exist in everything. The concept of yin-yang has held its importance in traditional Chinese philosophy since ancient times. As for how the myriad of things were created, it is believed they arose from emotive expression. So everything in the universe holds a specific emotion at its core. The higher love that Chinese tradition labels compassion, an emotion that surpasses all others. Compassion has many effects, but the greatest are health-related. Better physical and mental health. These manifest in the form of happiness and good fortune. How does this emotional state accomplish so much? Compassion broadens the heart and mind. That breadth allows us to avoid entanglement in hardship, so that we are neither controlled by our worries nor suffer because of them. A broad heart mind has the ability to see the uselessness of troublesome things. Remember the impoverished man whose mother-in-law demanded a diamond ring for her daughter. I said, "Get a nice-looking fake." If that mother were compassionate, her thinking might have been, "My daughter loves this man. My love for her means my affection naturally extends to him. He's going to be my son. Why demand this hardship of him? What good does it serve?" If she used compassion and put herself in his position, then the issue would never have come up. She would neither feel great joy seeing her daughter wear a diamond, nor great bitterness, because it's fake. Who is the most hurt by her lack of generosity? She is, for demanding the diamond. True love makes pain avoidable. If the love isn't true, then it's selfish or greedy. True love is like the purest of water, and it seems she's polluted hers. Her love is not pure. Why doesn't she love him like one of her children? She offers him only a fraction of the love she has for her daughter. The more her love is diluted, the more harm she may cause. Most wounded is the person most affected, the mother-in-law herself. And she's seriously undermining her daughter's happiness. The effect she has on her daughter's marriage may cause them to question their love rather than enjoy it. If the love is true, then why is money such an issue? Conflict and breakups become more likely. She had planted a seed of unhappiness in her daughter's marriage. Building a relationship is like building a bridge. If rotting beams are used in the construction, it's going to collapse. When may be unclear, but the eventual collapse is not. The slightest pressure applied at the right moment will do it. What is the mother lacking? Compassion. It doesn't allow love to be too small or selfish, so her love would never allow her to ruin the couple's happiness. Lack of compassion can trigger hardships and grasping. The presence of compassion brings a power of perspective. True happiness cannot be measured in terms of finances. In fact, wrapped in real happiness, two people can live as beggars and still feel blessed. Broadness of compassion also helps prevent numerous illnesses. This is because of an increase in our ability to assess what we observe and to perceive it clearly. Many of the little things that normally inflame people can be clearly seen from a distance, and therefore easily avoided. With that avoidance, we escape harming both ourselves and others. With a broader heart-mind, I am relatively free from some of the effects of fatigue or finding myself in other common negative circumstances. I'm less likely to be diagnosed with high blood pressure or cardiovascular disease. I won't easily suffer shock or feelings of fright. This also means that if I'm sidestepping negative emotions and reactions that contribute to the development of illness, many people who grow ill are living with the effects of a shock that caused kidney damage or a great moment of rage that injured their liver. How did your liver get infected? Possibly it was rage. We often feel sympathy for people facing hardship. And yet, when we learn the reasons they suffer, we may feel the hardship is well deserved. However, even if their hardship is due to a wickedness they've committed, when truly imbued with compassion, we wish harm to no one. Can life be free of pain? In China, there's a saying, "Those who avoid acts that may trouble the heart need fear no ghastly midnight knocking." I feared no knocking. It makes sense, because after we do something that evokes feelings of shame, we enter a state of agitation and sleep poorly. Lacking sleep, certain conditions arise. Headaches, trigeminal neuralgia, even stomach, kidney, and brain-related issues can all be traced back to sleep disorders. Again, opening your heart and applying compassion to the world is the key, and the health benefits can be your primary motivation. Another motive could relate to the Chinese concept of xin. The basic meaning of xin is heart, but it traditionally represents the faculties of both emotional and intellectual energy. Sometimes this is referred to as the heart-mind. If we broaden the xin in our dealings with the natural world, our working lives, or in any context, then we enter into a calm state of amicable compassion. Imagine you're on the street and someone bumps into you. You have the opportunity to think something positive like, "I guess we were meant to connect at that moment." After all, it was a coincidence, not an intentional act. Maybe if you happened to cross that person again, you'd form a friendship. All from an accidental encounter. The state of your heart-mind is the key. Sometimes youths bump into each other and start fighting. They fight until someone has a broken nose or worse. This just shows how knocking into someone accidentally could herald a positive, fated moment of connection. So much harm can come from blowing a small thing out of proportion negatively. But when we carry compassion into all our dealings, then any encounter, generated by either good fortune or bad, can become an exceptionally positive opportunity to connect with society and the world. Pretty wonderful stuff. When your xin is full of compassion, it ensures that your interactions with others will be beneficial. One of the reasons for this is when someone needs your help, you don't even consider the personal losses or gains. Instead, you instantly perceive the beauty in the person, requesting the aid. Their goodness and compassion illuminate them in your eyes. Additionally, the compassion in you will make the wondrous qualities in others shine more brightly. Who enjoys interacting with people who just point out your faults? "My, your jaw's awfully short. Wouldn't it be better longer?" Nobody would like to hear that. Or, "Hey, that's a pretty nice outfit you've got on today. Other girls would look better in it." Listen to me. Too bad your legs and weight aren't right for it. Maybe get high heels? And after losing some weight? If someone talked to you like that, you probably wouldn't see them in a positive light. Your Xin would be operating under the impression that the world was against you. Whenever you consider others, you do it via sensory organs. If the impression that you receive through those organs is a negative one, it is that your Xin lacks breadth. It's like a water pipe, and our emotional input is like water. A wide pipe will easily drain the water poured from a big bucket. A tiny pipe would take hours to do the same job, causing an unhealthy backlog. Everything is remarkably easier to deal with when your Xin is broad and open. The narrower the perspective, the less generous the Xin. The more people's barbs come out. It's like sitting next to someone in a meditation retreat and deciding to ignore them because they're too ugly, because you're afraid to be associated with them. If you can't find any good in the person sitting right next to you, then what good will you find anywhere? Take hardwood floors, for example. If you're negatively focused, then maybe they seem too slippery, a real bother. Wouldn't it be better if we put down carpet? But if we had carpeting, then you could fixate on the bacterial content and refuse to sit down. You can't force the world to accommodate your perspective. A broad Xin, brimming with compassion, makes it possible to experience the wonder of the world, a rare and exquisitely joyful experience. To my mind, the spirit of compassion can be explained like this. You find a stone, not a polished specialty shop stone, just a normal, everyday rock. And yet you fully perceive how truly beautiful it is. Same for the earth, weeds, flowers, and everything else in nature. It's undeniably beautiful. Sometimes we go out on field trips. I might want to sit down. And it isn't uncommon for someone to stop me. Teacher, you need a blanket or you'll get dirty. They think that the grass is dirty. But I think that the grass is probably cleaner than their synthetic city clothes. More natural, certainly. Maybe that's why I feel that I need to touch the earth regularly, to feel its permeating nourishment. It's good to go out and get in touch with nature. Really physically touch it. Most of us try that by driving sheltered in a car, wearing the thickest shoes and 2 layers of socks, maybe with something to cover our faces. It is a matter of heart, of openness. People go out to connect with nature wrapped up like mummies. Pretty counterproductive. This example shows that our hearts are not open. The narrow heart results from lack of compassion. Compassion opens up our hearts. When our inner hearts are open and accepting, It benefits our overall understanding of not just nature, but everything. Great acts and thoughts derived from compassion can release the innate power in objects and in people that seem otherwise useless or even toxic. That's one of the reasons that compassion reconnects us with nature. Reopening communication channels. It does the same thing between people and all other living things. Taking it to the next logical step, the widened, compassionate Xin opens the way for opportunity as well. The amount by which an individual benefits is only limited by the width of their individual Xin. Some wonder, if I make my Xin as large and as open as the sky, will I then have limitless success? It's sort of like that in all truth. According to history, Emperor Han Wudi's mother was a cruel and small-minded woman. She struggled viciously to have her son ascend to the throne. She then plotted with her brother to claim a large section of farmland from the peasants. Even though she wasn't a farmer and had no idea what to do with the land, she simply desired clear title over it. When her son, the emperor, heard of what she'd done, he was furious. He demanded she explain herself. "My son," she answered, "what I did in your name. Everything beneath heaven belongs to me. What need have I to specifically claim a section of peasant farmland? You can't hold on to everything in the world. Only the things you carve your name into are truly yours." "You're wrong, mother. This entire kingdom already lies within my palm. How can it be beyond my reach? You yourself have been ennobled as empress. Anything you desire is brought to you. Carving your name into a hunk of earth is meaningless." The mother never really understood the flaw in her thinking. Simply put, her Xin was too small. From a position of peerless authority and prestige, she set herself against peasant farmers. It's as though, hearing how much land the imperial officials lived on, she felt the need to go out and claim as much for herself. It's laughable. It's as if you owned a big house, but insisted on clutching a leg of the dining table. "This is mine." Ridiculous. Even things you hold in your hands or write on won't necessarily always be yours. Looking back on her now, we all see how foolish she was. But she was too narrow and selfish. If someone told her they owned 67 hectares of land, she would compare it to her own 15,130 hectares and still be jealous. No matter how high she rose, her point of reference remained petty. Without access to higher perspective, you cannot be a true leader who nurtures nations and enriches the people, links them to the divine. Everyone, be they officials, business people, or manual laborers, should try to look a little farther, have a little more perspective. One day, there were two Buddhist scholars in my class. They were notable because they seemed to be utterly emotionless, apathetic. It was as though they were wholly removed from the feelings of others. Perhaps they feared the harm that emotions could wreak. I told that by sequestering their hearts to prevent destructive emotions and selfish passions, they were merely suppressing the emotions that were still just beneath the surface. Is it right to live a life devoid of emotions? Feeling is essential to truly being human and alive. If I only felt apathy, there would have been no classes. No one present would have benefited. Without emotional connection, why would the Western God have offered himself to save the world? Why would the Eastern God have vowed to free us from the suffering of samsara? They were inspired by a specific emotion, an emotion like the sun rather than a light bulb, expansive instead of limited. Both illuminate, but one surpasses all limitations. That emotion comes from compassion. Without it, without feeling, without love, there would be no sun to warm the world, no moon, and no life. Everyone needs emotional connection. Some are compassionate, some are selfish. Talking about self-cultivation, I'd like to mention that I don't cultivate just to be a self-cultivator. I've always had objectives. My first objective was to relieve my physical suffering. My second was to develop some exceptional skills to free others from the suffering of the world. Lastly, when I had understood the Dharma, my objective was mental fortitude. Extraordinary abilities cannot resolve mental anguish. When I was young, I also underwent extreme training in the martial arts. If I hit bricks, they broke. But so many fragile-looking things could still injure me in any number of circumstances. Like if something small fell on my head, for example. So I realized, even with a powerful physique, I was still entirely vulnerable. After all my martial arts training, I understood how much strong muscle didn't protect me from emotional onslaughts in particular. I was as vulnerable as ever in so many ways. Then I understood that true and lasting health had to come from the spirit itself, that a spiritual broadness could offer physical benefits as well as psychological ones. I could live without fear. That's how I developed my third objective and learned how to become stronger. I used to have a lot of real enemies, but I saw the foolishness of it. If you have enemies, then you will be harmed beyond a doubt. It draws harm to you. At long last, my Xin destroyed my oppositional perspective, for it had no enemies. It changed me until I could easily recognize its essential truth. If my Xin were a millstone, I was like a knife. It smoothed my sharp edges, reformed the weapon I had been, till there was no knife left. My hands are not knives now. There are no daggers left in my heart. I now look on others without enmity, because I see the good in everyone. And so I enjoy true inner peace. It's as if my Xin is a mountain stream that flows into nature, bringing total tranquility where it wanders. I am safe in the ultimate sense. I'm not saying that I cut myself off from all feelings, neither loving nor being loved. I mean that I feel goodness for everyone I meet, but I'm not carried away by selfishness, even if it's disguised as love. A person like that still has feelings. For example, a man with his power can still fall for a beautiful, intelligent woman, but she remains her own person in his eyes. He remains a separate person too. He would not be consumed by negative passions that would harm either of them. The possessiveness is gone, like seeing an enchanting tree on the side of the road. It's beautiful, and you can appreciate it without needing to possess it, without needing to drag it out of the ground. Rip out its roots and take it home. Selfish love motivates such acts, even when it may cause the tree's harm or demise. A tree like that is already perfectly beautiful where it is. Wealth and material possessions, most of their benefit to us is actually produced in our minds. Imagine 4 different people all showing up at the same time to dig up that poor tree, each hoping to haul it home. Whoever managed to get it, even if it wasn't killed, would have to defend it constantly. The others would constantly seek to steal it. It would be exhausting. And if you lost it, you'd be enraged. What good does any of that do? Instead, you can simply enjoy the moment offered as you pass the tree on the street, allowing others to do the same. No harm, no pain, not to mention the gradual diminishment of selfishness. Let the birds fly free and the fish swim in the ocean. And then everyone is happier. Simply avoid bringing troublesome things into your home, either the home within or without. The less you own, the more peace you have. How does an average person begin to develop that kind of compassion? It starts with a single act of goodness, large or small. No need to consider the personal benefit of it. Don't even consider the personal benefit or the status of who you aid. Put your kindness into action freely, without want or need. Try keeping a monthly journal of your acts, both the positive and the less than ideal. A personal record of merit and karma. Make a daily habit of noting how these acts, particularly the kind ones, affect you psychologically. I often get to see the positive results of my help in other people's lives. Seeing their happiness, I feel great joy. I'm even happier than they are. So those who help others are often the happiest of all. That's why helping others is so wonderful for the self. Additionally, the people we help think and speak well of us. They wish us well. This creates a wonderful, beneficial energy for us, which extends to our children and grandchildren. Every single person, even the most common, benefits by considering the future fruits of their actions for themselves and their descendants. Like saving money for your children to inherit. Merit can be passed down. At the same time, you're passing on positive behaviors. It's a matter of education. Avoiding disastrous excess and planning ahead. Life is impermanent. But virtue and merit can be inherited. Like genes, the merit is passed on. If you share that belief, help others more. They'll praise you, respect you, and wish you all the best, blessing you and your children with happiness. As a compassionate person, your perspective is broader. And you have future generations in mind, benefiting you and all around you, here and now, in a way that you can pass on to your children. So when we help others, we develop better interpersonal relationships because our Xin loses its internal saboteurs. Bitterness, maliciousness, destructiveness all dissipate. This process also extends to business. Offering only well-priced, high-quality products ensures fewer returns. Accepting returned items graciously encourages people to buy without worry. Customers feel assured of the excellence your goods and the easy resolution of any difficulties. It's an obvious formula for repeat customers and overall success. Trying to cheat clients creates a lot of bad energy for your business and makes people hesitant to buy, even if you have what they want. When short-term profit is the only goal, it can be a narrowness of Xin. Yet the larger the Xin, the more likely a business will continue successfully. Ethical poor business isn't sustainable. Business people with expansive, compassionate Xin benefit more financially than those without. What we call compassion produces a particular energy, and compassion-made action produces an unlimited amount of that energy. A compassionate Xin is the means by which to access limitless energy. A compassionate Xin connects to the compassionate energies of the universe. There's an equivalency between the breadth of your Xin and the amount of energy you access. Even the smallest things matter. The big picture alone isn't always enough. This world isn't formed of big things, but of finer details. So the finer your awareness, the greater your ability to connect to the world. Whenever I sing or play the qin, it influences energy meridians. It sets a soul to dancing. It enters and touches the deepest level of your body and mind. That's why some people feel so positively affected. In part, it's tantric transmission. It's an energy that accelerates the basic human ability to advance and thrive. I hope those who have listened to the teachings will be empowered through compassion. Renewal and long life result. This is the power of compassion.